The other interviews that I plan on doing for this podcast, I'll do later, and I'll edit them in later. So Gabriel Gonzaga and Cameron McCrory will hopefully be listening to that at the end of this. At the end of this podcast, you'll be able to hear the interviews with both of those guys. Where do we go from here, Matt Kona?
Well, we were getting started talking about UFC Ottawa, and
yes, sir.
The fight night card that's coming up, which is a special start time of 10:30 p.m. And because there's a NASCAR event going on on FS. Yeah, and that's why the prelims are on FS2. I assume you have a show that night anyway, so we won't be able to react live to it. It's kind of a crazy weekend, Father's Day coming up.
Yes.
There was before we get into that, there was an interesting footnote, and the interview today is kind of the react.
I'm still here.
All right, you're moving a lot of stuff around, I hear.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. I have to plug in my iPad because it's getting low on battery. So, in order to keep it from dying here.
This is the most tech-savvy episode of MMAniacs.
This is quite the little tech experiment.
Yeah.
I'm listening, my man.
Yeah, I'm listening too, but it's really loud in my end. Anyway.
There we go. All right. I am back. Did I lose you?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All set? No, I'm here. I just
all right.
Touched there.
So you're saying it's a special start time because of the NASCAR event, and I'm not savvy to this.
Yeah, because of NASCAR, and that's why the prelims are on FS2. So things won't get started till 10:30. Fight Pass prelims are at 6:45. I don't really have a ton to get into about the prelims. There's a lot of Canadian fighters. And then there's the main event that Fight Pass has been doing the featured prelims, which ordinarily would be on the main card, but they're trying to spotlight it, and they're doing that this time with Smiling Sam Ivy against Elias Theodoro, the Spartan, who looks like he could be a character on Game of Thrones. He's a very handsome man. But,
did you watch last night's episode?
I did, and what I liked about it, and I thought what was interesting is there was a little bit of mixed martial arts training going on in this one with the footwork between the Squire.
Arya Stark.
No. Arya Stark.
Oh, Braun in the.
Yeah, he goes, watch your foot, your footwork. And he looks down and he just smacks him in the face. Yeah, so that was pretty good. So Elias Theodoro and Smiling Sam Ivy going head to head, U.S. versus Canada. Theodoro he's my pick in the fight, but we shall see. It should be a raucous crowd up there in Ottawa. So there's one other card on the Fight Pass portion that I'm interested in, and it's a woman's strawweight bout between Randa Marcos and Jocelyn Lynn Leibarger, who was I don't know too much about her. but she was I believe a late replacement back in at the UFC in Australia, I think. Of course, potential guest Camden McCrory against Krzysztof Jotko from Poland. Hopefully we hear more about that if you're able to get in touch with McCrory, who lives in upstate New York, so his road to the Ottawa stage shouldn't be too long. And then Misha Serkinov against Ion Kotalaba, who is sometimes the sometimes the fighters that are late replacements or there's not much about, they're making their UFC debut, will just be a black face and little is known about them. And they don't even have all the stats. It doesn't even say what country he's from. So, but Misha Serkinov did look good in his last UFC bout, which was a win. I'm trying to see who it was over.
And these guys are light heavyweights.
Yeah. But
Serkinov's 11-2.
He beat Alex Nicholson at Fight Night Vegas. Rear naked choke, which was one of those rear naked chokes where it's really a jaw crank. Speaking about Michael Chiesa, that's how he defeated Beneil Dariush in his last bout going around. And then the main card, only 5 fights, but all of them are pretty interesting to me. You have first ever UFC women's women's flyweight bout between Valerie Latorno and Joanne Calderwood, and fighting for. There's not a division yet, but they will be fighting at 125.
125, yeah.
And Latorno, who took the strawweight champ Joanna Jędrzejczyk to her toughest fight yet in a 5-round decision at UFC 193, is looking good. I've definitely got her picked for this one. It's going to be her first time back. Well, she was at Saskatchewan in Canada not too recently, or in the summertime, I guess. Sorry.
We got Oliver Aubin Mercier versus Thibodeau Gauthier. Olivier Aubin Mercier. French much? He is the Frenchman for sure. Many of the people have the French in them from the Ottawa. Mais oui. He's 8-2 against Thibault. I can't say. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Thibault 11-1, and those are both lightweight guys. So I'm looking at the UFC website. Is this in order? Yeah. That's the first fight in the main card, Latorno versus Calderwood, right?
Yeah.
And then the second one, Aubin Mercier versus Gauthier.
Yep, and then the boss, Steve Bossy, going against Sean O'Connell, who we saw get knocked the fuck out in under 30 seconds by Alir Latifi in Boston. Actually, I missed it because I went to go, I don't know, adjust my shirt, tuck my shirt in or something, turned around, and it was a done deal.
It was literally one of those ones where you don't blink.
Yeah.
It took a blink of an eye, and it was lights out.
And, I mean, I hate to say it, but that could happen with Steve Bossy again. I mean, that happened in his last fight where he was making it, I believe his debut at light heavyweight. And he's a former hockey star, minor league hockey star in Canada. But he hits really hard. And but he's also been knocked out really hard from a lot of his scraps in other athletic callings. So
And
That
another
should be
thing that's
good.
notable about Sean O'Connell is he tends to have very interesting showdowns at the weigh-ins. So
Yes.
I always look forward to seeing what kind of silliness he's going to bring to it, because I'm a big fan of silly. I like silly things, and he does something silly almost every time.
Although you did go on record on the MMAniacs pod Twitter account saying you don't like pageantry, but
yeah, but that's silliness. I don't like pageantry where people take themselves seriously. I don't mind
okay.
pageantry where it's nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm not a big fan of people taking themselves too seriously. That kind of pageantry.
Okay. Well, what would be an example of that? What do you mean? Like, you talk about like Luke Rockhold's. It wasn't really pageantry, but we didn't really talk about Luke Rockhold's because we didn't watch the post-fight presser at the last time of the podcast. But
we didn't
I think
watch. I
that
watched it. I watched it, but we didn't talk about
no,
it.
yeah, I watched it too. But I'm saying at the
Okay.
time of the conversation that we had immediately following the event,
Right.
I thought he was a little sore about how things went. He wouldn't even walk over and be in the center of the octagon to have his hand raised, and sometimes that happens because a fighter has been knocked the fuck out or is being tended to medically. But he was just sort of leaning up against the fence where the Rogan interview was, and just kind of.
I think I said he looked like he was in a cigarette ad.
Yeah. He looked like he was.
Leaning up against the wall, like grab Winston's, be a Winston man.
Right. So
he was he was pretty arrogant and pretty dismissive after that fight. And it's like, look, I get it. If you didn't take the guy seriously, that's on you, dude.
Yeah.
You can't be mad at him. He did his fucking job.
Yeah.
He did his job. He trained his ass off, and he found the right spot to touch you on the chin. So.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just.
For everything that I've ever said about Bisping, he was a really class act after it, and he tried multiple times. He tried to bury it, and he'd go, "Look, man, I really respect you, and I think you're a great fighter, and then as soon as he would say something nice about Rockhold would just shit on him again. And after like the fifth time, I don't know if you saw the video. There's a video after the press conference was over with where they got into a yelling match. They were both standing up on the dais or podium or whatever you want to call it, and we're yelling back and forth at each other because Bisping had had enough of it, and I don't blame him one bit. It was he went way above and beyond whatever he would have to do to be a classy guy to Luke Rockhold, and Rockhold was a total dick to him. But I don't. It's. Agreed. I guess it's hard when you feel you have something taken away from you that you don't feel like under any circumstances should have been taken away from you, but obviously they were. You just have to accept it. You have to be. If you want to be a champion, act like a champion. Act like a champion. Be gracious. Go out there, thank the guy, let him know he did a good job, and then come back and do it again. But he just kept saying over and over again, like it wasn't. It was like it wasn't real. It was like it didn't really happen.
Yeah, you can't argue with reality.
What's that?
Can't argue with reality, and it seems
right.
like that was.
It's like, no, dude, he shut your fucking lights off. He knocked you the fuck out. You were done. So say good job, shake his hand, then fight him again.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, after next back to Ottawa, the co-main event and the main event. I feel like we should spend a little bit of time on. Although the odds makers have Donald Cowboy Cerrone as quite a heavy favorite going up against Patrick Cote, and this bout will be at welterweight. It'll be the second consecutive fight for Cerrone at welterweight. It looks like this could be his new weight class because this isn't a last minute thing. This is Maybe it's because of the new USADA rules. Maybe he felt weak. We saw how he crumbled against Dos Anjos in his most recent, possibly final fight at lightweight. So he's going against Patrick Cote, who has been around for a real long time, and is actually like the official UFC commentator of Canadian broadcast. I don't think that he's going to be doing double duty like Michael Jackson was when he fought against Mickey Galway and then did the post-fight press conference asking questions to him.
That's right. That's funny.
But I think a lot of people are underestimating Cote because
I've underestimated him on several fights and been proven wrong.
Yeah, he's been around forever. He's got stopping power. He seems confident in his wrestling ability. And Cerrone, let's be honest, his last fight he was basically signing autographs mid-fight against the Brazilian cowboy who came in on extremely short notice and was taken out pretty easily. That being said, I think.
His last Cote's last two fights, I thought I picked Josh Berkman at Fight Night Holloway versus Oliveira, and I picked Ben Saunders in Dillashaw versus Cruz, which we were at. Mm-hmm. I tried to get Ben Saunders for an interview that week, but he was like, "Dude, I'm so crazy right now." So
yeah.
But I have been in negotiations with Ben to get him on the show. So at some point, hopefully I can get him with enough time out in front to where we can get him on the show to talk about an upcoming fight.
Yeah, I would love to hear you asking questions. Just kidding.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out properly next time, and we'll get him on Google Hangouts. But I want you to put on I want you to put a pillowcase over your head and earplugs in, so you can't see or hear him. We'll get him to where he's on. It's on properly, but you'll be.
I'll be distorted. So.
That's right.
That's good. That could be good. In the main event, Rory McDonald against Cowboy. Excuse me, Wonder Boy.
Whoa, hey.
So many boys, so little time.
That's a crazy fight. I don't see anybody stopping Wonder Boy anytime soon. I think that dude is destined for the strap. I think he's gonna carry that strap out of the octagon in the not too distant future.
Wow. So that's your pick, Wonder Boy.
That's my pick. He's got that Lyoto Machida kind of mystique about him. Not only just because he's a karate guy, but he uses that in such an unorthodox way in the same kind of vein as Lyoto Machida. It's a very hard thing to train for. It's a very hard thing to find somebody who can move like that and hit like that and evade like that. So I don't. It's like when Joe Rogan said, "Welcome to the Machida era. Welcome to the Wonder Boy era." That's what I will say.
Nobody knows that better than Johnny Hendricks, who dusted.
Yep. What are your thoughts on the main event?
Well, my thoughts are that granted, it's been a while since Rory fought. It was July of last year, so coming up on a year in that fight of the year against Robbie Lawler. I think that he's trained and sparred with Wonder Boy before, and I don't think he's going to want to stand up with him. I think he's going to try to wrestle him and take it to the ground, because if it's a stand-up fight, It's going to be really hard. And Rory is a complete mixed martial artist. He has good stand-up. He's he hits hard. He's got a diversity of attacks, but Wonder Boy is very dangerous, and he's not going to want to play into his strengths. I think it's a good chance that this becomes a grappling match, or he tries to end it with ground and pound with submission. I mean, Rory's still
Well,
he's still a
that's
big.
definitely Rory's where he could win the fight. I don't think he's going to win that fight standing up for sure.
Yeah, or at least he's going to try to close the distance and get into the clinch where Wonder Boy can't create space, can't try any of his spinning moves or the question mark kick, wheel kicks to the head, which has been his bread and butter in his last two victories. But he fought the day. Well, he's only fought once since Rory's last fought, or twice, I guess, since the tough finale was the day after UFC 199 when he beat Jake Ellenberger. So, but that was also in a devastating fashion. So,
knockout, TKO Hendricks, knockout Ellenberger, decision Cote, TKO Robert Whitaker, TKO Chris Clemens, decision Nashon Burrell. And his one loss was to Matt Brown. That was by decision. The Immortal.
Yes. So, I mean, if I had to pick, I would, because it should also be noted he's fighting for his next contract. He wants to get paid. He wants to be the next biggest fighter from Canada to get paid next to Brock Lesnar. So,
well, I don't think there's any question as to whether or not that guy's going to get his contract renewed. I think the UFC would.
He's going to get paid.
The UFC.
He's going to get paid, but it's going to be.
I think the UFC would be ridiculous to not renew his contract. I'm sure he's gonna get some more money than what he's making right now for sure.
Yeah. Could Viacom open their pocketbooks? Try to get him over to Bellator. Get him to a EFN. Try to get to a crazy Russian promotion. Imagine that if he went to a rival promotion and they were airing on Fight Pass. That would be nuts.
It's speaking of that. I caught a little bit of Fedor's interview earlier, and one of the things that stuck out to me was how he said something to the extent of, "This promoter is going to be the biggest promoter." It's like, dude, shut up. Yeah. He's not going to be the UFC is the top dog. This guy that nobody's heard of, this Russian promoter, is not going to be the biggest promoter that ever was. I don't know if they have his family locked up in a dungeon somewhere in Russia or the mafia or something, but that's always kept him from being in the UFC was all these other people negotiating on his behalf, trying to get their cut of what it was, not negotiating for him necessarily, but negotiating for them. And it always has felt a little bit nefarious.
Yeah,
and I don't have any. I don't have any concrete evidence of any of that, but it's always felt just a little bit nefarious.
Anyways, well, I guess we should make some picks.
All right.
So, why don't we pick the main event? Co-main event. Well, there's only five fights on the main card, so you want to just pick all five of those. There's not a ton that I know, not that I know in depth about everyone here, but I'm gonna go with Rory McDonald, and he's my choice for the main event.
I don't. 4 years ago, I feel like maybe even longer than that. It was still how long has GSP been out of the UFC? 3 years?
Um,
2 years?
Yeah, I think it was 2012.
2012. So closing in on 4 years ago. I think that point was the best Rory McDonald we'd ever seen, and I think that he's. I'm still a huge fan of his, and I think he's a great fighter. But I'm not necessarily sure that he's the same fighter that he was, and I don't know what the reasoning for that is. I'm not sure that he looked just invincible for a while there. He looked like such a murderer, and plus Wonder Boy's come on the scene. Are you still there? You look locked up. Oh shit! Matt Kona got locked up. All right. Well, while we're waiting for him to come back on, I guess I will give my picks here. Let's see. Go back to the card here. UFC Ottawa. So my pick for the main event, Wonderboy Thompson, only one loss on his record, and such a unique fighting style. It's going to be really hard for anybody to figure him out. So I got Stephen Thompson by knockout. My knockout. Although Roy McDonald's got a hell of a chin. We've seen him take some serious beatings before. What's that one fight where he just got the shit kicked out of him? Welcome back. Dreams are your ticket out. Welcome.
Well,
back.
I guess it's okay that it was happening as we.
I was giving my picks as you were gone. The first one they had already heard. I got Wonder Boy. The second fight, Donald Cerrone and Patrick Cote, is the battle of the two guys with the most experience each on this card, with Cerrone with 36 fights, Cote with 33 fights. So they're both in that same kind of, both have a lot of experience. And I was saying that I've got Cerrone, but it's contingent on what Cerrone shows up. The Cerrone that showed up for Dos Anjos was not, he did not click it off. Cerrone did not click it off that night. But he seems to do really good against people that aren't the champion. So
yeah, undefeated in non-title fights, except right. He's not. He's lost a couple.
No, okay.
No.
Well, he got 7 losses, so that's 7 title fights would be a lot. What's the most title fights anyone has ever gotten that didn't win a title?
I can tell you right now, it's Uriah Faber.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 0-4. 2 against Barao, 1 against Aldo, 1 against
Kenny Florian's probably not far behind him. I think he's 0-3.
Yeah. That was a discussion on something I was reading, or podcast I was listening to the other day. because Bisping previously was in the conversation for one of the best fighters that's never won a title. And I think it's definitely got to be Kenny Florian now.
Or one of the best fighters that hasn't got a title fight.
Oh, got a title fight? Yeah, that's different. I know that was his first, but
yeah.
But he's and this was an interesting. It was talked about on the MMA Hour when Bisping was being interviewed. Of course, there was a lot of talk about the return of GSP,
Yes.
and well, what about if GSP fought Michael Bisping because they're both tied for most wins in UFC history with 19.
Oh, the old tiebreaker.
Yeah, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, probably will never happen.
But it has interest-generating possibilities. But you're right; it's probably not too likely.
No.
So Cerrone versus Cote.
I'm gonna say Cote just for the underestimation factor. It's his big fight in Canada, and I think he's primed and ready for it. So Cote is my underdog pick. I don't know if I'm gonna put any money on it, but yeah.
All right, and then the middleweight division got Steve Bossy versus Sean O'Connell, and I like Sean O'Connell.
I'm going with the big boss man.
Yeah, Bossy. I'm gonna go with Boss myself.
All right.
I'm gonna go with Bossy myself on that one. I feel like
I'm really picking almost all Canadians in this card. I don't know what it is.
Well, you do.
I love the Canadian people.
You like that, and then you like the Europeans. So sometimes you
I do.
You just go straight Europe. It's just like when you show up at the voting booth and you just go straight Democrat all the way down, or whatever it is that you vote for. I have a hard time believing.
Yeah, I don't always do.
You've made many Republican picks in your life, but
I never vote again. I never vote for the people that are running unopposed. That's one thing for the local politics. Because fuck them. Why should they get my vote? No one's even going up against them. Anyway,
I actually was just talking to this woman, Amanda Bolden. I don't know if you ever had a chance to meet her. She would come to Lafayette all the time, but she was a state representative, and I started a conversation with her the other day about potentially running for state rep.
I actually did remember. I do remember meeting her. Yeah,
you do remember meeting her.
Yeah.
I don't know why I would consider doing that, but we had a lengthy conversation about it.
You're right.
Information.
Be a good way to promote the podcast. They would listen to all old episodes and quotes like, "Do you want to vote for someone that refers to people as limey twats?"
That's all right. I won't mind. I'll go on the record.
Oh, but
I'm already on record. No, never mind.
I do support the European fighters. I showed off the Bisping glove I had. I just got my Conor McGregor autographed glove in the mail the other day. So now I've got two hands of European champions. So,
nice.
There we go.
Are you are you working on a frame for those? Are you going to put them in some sort of shadow box or something? Some sort of
right now they're hanging from my ceiling. I should probably get some kind of a frame for them. They make specialty ones, but I can probably get something cheaper.
All right. Next fight down the card: Olivier Aubin-Mercier versus Thibault Gouti.
Gouti, yeah.
Gouti.
Yes.
I got Aubin-Mercier in this one. Right.
Oh, here. Canada, I'm with you.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Had a performance of the night against Jake Lindsay on the McDonald Safadine card, October 2014.
Yeah, he didn't win his last time out. He didn't look great, but
he fought Diego Ferreira, and he did lose that fight.
Yeah, but I see him turning it around. He's a big favorite. Uh, the end of the losing streak. And then, of course, the women's flyweight card, Joanne Calderwood, who trains in Canada, although is Scottish. She trains at with GSP and Rory at TriStar, but it's going up against American top teams Valerie Letourneau, North American top team, but I'm picking Letourneau. She's big. She's huge for strawweight. She's fought at bantamweight before, but I think this is the ideal weight class for her. And I also think that the UFC will have a flyweight division in the near future, and I think that'll be a good thing, especially with all the weight cutting. Misha Tate said on her podcast this week that she's interested in fighting at flyweight. So, I mean, she can cut down to flyweight. So we'll see. It could make things interesting.
She's trying to work on 2 titles.
We'll see. They first have to come up with the division, but I think that the pack will be thinned in bantamweight. I think a lot of people will be interested in, or a lot of strawweights, excuse me, will be interested in not cutting as much weight. Well, with the present state of USADA restrictions, as well as starting with UFC 200, where the UFC is adding stipulations that you have to be within 8% of your body weight that you're going to be fighting at on the Tuesday before the fight camp, which is something that male flyweight champion Demetrius Johnson said is, quote, not going to happen, bro, for him. So pretty defiant. There is no penalties at this time, but it just says that if you're not, they're going to have someone to monitor you, basically for health reasons. So, I mean, theoretically, the weight cutting regulations are for fighter health and safety. But with DJ, he says he knows how to cut weight. He's never missed it. He doesn't. He walks around. I think he says 133 in fight week, and so he's cutting
133
down to 8 pounds. So, but
that's not terrible. Did you lock up again?
But
hey, there you are.
So anyway,
welcome.
The internet may be fading, so that's my last pick. Who are you picking, Calderwood or Letourneau?
I'm gonna go with Calderwood. I'm gonna go with the Limey. That's a tough one for you because you have.
She's not limey. She's from Scotland. She's a platy or something, Scotchy.
So that's a tough one for you because you have a Canadian and a European.
Tough.
How do you go? How do you do this?
Yeah, I know.
So what's your? What's your pick?
Canadian, now living in Florida. I'm going Letourneau.
Letourneau. All right.
I also have a massive crush on her.
All right. Well, lovely. Well, we'll try and get her on the podcast so you can.
Yeah. So that's it. Hopefully, and there's plenty more. Check out FS2. Don't forget.
Check out FS2 and listen to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Podbean, fans.fm, and of course, you can watch the video on our YouTube channel. After I sign off right here, depending upon how long it takes me to get the interviews, if I can get them in the next couple of days, I'll wait and edit them in. But if I can't get it together in the next couple of days, I will just put the podcast as it stands right now. So you may or may not
Okay. Well,
It's so strange. Every time you call back in, when we're having a conversation, I have it at a reasonable volume. But for whatever reason, when you call back in, the volume of the ring is deafening, and it scares the shit out of me every time. So I'm gonna have to edit out the holy shit. The fuck was that? So I was just telling people we're wrapping it up here. They may or may not hear some interviews at the end of this. Podcast, and those interviews may or may not be with Gabriel Gonzaga and Tamden McCrory, who is, I think is he a 170 or 170? Yeah, he's a 170.
Yeah, I'll be on 142.
Yeah,
he's a Polish fighter. His name is very hard to pronounce.
So Tamden's a welterweight. 170 welterweight. So we might get a chance to listen to a quick interview with him and with Gabriel Gonzaga. And I hope folks enjoyed the interview with Donnie Villanueva. I hope you get it. I hope you enjoy it when you get a chance to listen to it.
I will eventually enjoy it as well.
And that's it. We'll check in
next
week after UFC Ottawa and talk about
spotty internet.
Say that again.
Sorry about my spotty internet.
Oh yeah. So hopefully we'll have better internet next time, or even better. I plan on being down in Boston.
And are you going to be watching the fights live? You have gigs this weekend?
I do. I have a lot of shows this weekend, so I don't know. I don't know when Ottawa is. I know that we covered it. You said it was a weird
Saturday at 10:30. I said it 16 times.
Saturday at 10:30. No, I won't be watching it live, so I'll have to watch it. I'll have to watch it later. I have a gig Saturday night. I've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows. So I'm trying to do my best to get as much rest as I can and not blow my voice out.
Save that voice. You got it. Yeah. All right. Well, hope you feel better.
I did a set in Chicago. I meant to tell you that.
Oh, yeah? Where?
Yeah, that was cool. It's a place called the Whip Theater. A buddy of mine named Timmy Witzel moved out there 7 years ago, and he's got this open mic that he hosts at the Whip. And just on a whim, I was at my cousin owns a fairly well-known, famous restaurant in Chicago. It's just they're famous for chili and ice cream. It's called Lindy's. Nice. We were over at my cousin's restaurant, and I was like, "Hey, you want to go out to if I could get some time on stage?" She's like, "Yeah." So I called up Timmy, and he's like, "Yeah, dude." He was super stoked that I was in town and was able to come by and do a set. And it went well, and it was fun. I got approached by his co-host to do a podcast that they do there about poker. So nice. I'll probably be doing the poker podcast at some point.
Cool.
That's it, my man. I hope all is well with you. I'm going to sign out and go probably directly to bed because I'm still pretty dang sick.
Yeah. All right. Well, get well soon, and thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in.
Oh, peace.
So long, MMAniacs. Over and